You know who made it. Welcome back to 94 Feet, ladies and gentlemen. Kade Cameron, Danny Stipanovich, and of course, our recap of Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Now, I would like to say, obviously, the biggest storyline coming out of this, Boston beats Golden State 116 to 100. Didn't look like Golden State really had that support there. But I also mentioned that I feel like as of now, the 3 games into the series it just didn't seem like the most entertaining game, but still, hell of a game. Danny, what are your thoughts on tonight's game?
I mean, maybe not the most entertaining, but kind of a messy game. It was like Celtics went up, Warriors went on a couple runs. Celtics finally put them away at the end. But where do you want to start with? Lots to get into still. Should be a fun recap as always.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that you can look at as of now is the fact that Boston really just seemed to have full control of this game. Of course, in the third quarter, things got a little shaky for them. The Warriors finally did come back. They took the lead at one point in the third quarter after being down 18 at one point. But of course, as you mentioned, Boston kind of ran away with it at the end. And I think that's the biggest factor in this game. You know, the Warriors are one of the best third quarter teams in the league, and the fact that Boston was able to kind of keep them away, even though the Warriors were able to come back, still keep them away, keep them kind of settled down, and of course come away with a big Game 3 win in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll stick it with the Warrior. We can start with the Warriors. My biggest thing was okay. We finally saw Game 6 Clay return to just showed up. He showed up to work for once, and the Warriors just didn't have any help out of Clay and Steph. It was like other than Otto Porter, he was everyone else on the Warriors besides Stephen Clay either hit 1 3, 0 threes, or 2 threes. Otto Porter hit two, but he was only 2 for 3. And he hit like a Steph Curry shot at one point in that game, in that fourth quarter. But it was like Jordan Poole was cold. Gary Payton, who we saw a lot of in game 2, he played 11 minutes. He didn't play at all. So Steve Kerr's still tinkering with the lineup. He put lots of Otto Porter this game, and then it was like Andrew Wiggins wasn't hitting from deep. He was attacking. Draymond Green. Can we talk about Draymond Green coming off of that game 2 menace sort of game? We heard the F Draymond Green chants early in the game, and then Draymond at halftime put up a triple goose egg 0-0-0. Kate, I was telling you before the show I had money on Draymond under 21.5 points. That was it. Easy cash at halftime. But other than Steph and Clay, there was really no one on the Warriors that decided to show up.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think when your bench combines for 18 total points, and then 16 comes out of 2 guys, it's not going to be good for you in general. As you mentioned, Draymond Green putting up just a terrible game as well. I mean, he had that menace game in Game 2. It seemed like he kind of wanted to bring that into Game 3 as well, and kind of use that as a way to get into the Celtics' head. But obviously, the refs weren't having it this time. He fouled out pretty early on, or at least early on, in my opinion. And
The NBA they called up Scott Foster to
oh
level up
yeah,
the
the
playing
extender
field.
right there. But yeah, it was not a good game for the Warriors, and I think that's one of the biggest concerns that you see out of the Warriors right now. In the first 2 games, you had Klay Thompson not producing the way the Warriors needed him to. Now you have Draymond not producing the way you need him to. Clay's kind of starting to get back into it, but when that role support kind of mixes up, and you don't actually have that just consistency throughout the lineup, that's going to shut down a team pretty easily, no matter what. So you saw that with the Warriors tonight. And at this point, I mean, you just got to think that even though it seems that Steve Kerr doesn't really have a set idea for what he wants that lineup to be, we're now at the point in the series where I think he has to start recognizing that you have guys like Jordan Poole and Otto Porter. They're going to be getting you decent playing time when they're in. I think at this point you have to kind of shorten down that bench and kind of just rely on some of the guys that you know that have been coming off the bench and actually putting up stats.
I mean, yeah, the problem is that starting lineup for the Warriors, it's really a solid lineup to match up with the Celtics. The Celtics, they got height, they got the wings, they can run it. So you really kind of need that Clay, Wiggins, Draymond in that starting lineup, obviously. But no one else can really spot up from three besides Clay. And when he's off, like we saw in game 1 and 2, they need production from Jordan Poole. But I kind of want to go into the Celtics, Cade. My biggest takeaway from this is Jason Tatum is cementing himself as a superstar. Okay, can I go there?
Yeah, no, I'd say it. I mean, I think even beforehand, you can say that Jason Tatum was on the verge of becoming a superstar, and now I think, depending how this series turns out, this could be a series that does cement him and that legacy as a superstar. I think it's a little bit too early as of now. I think you still got to see how the rest of the series plays out. But you can say that as of now, you got the concrete trucks coming in, that cement's rolling around. They're ready to pour it for Jason Tatum, but just as of now, they just got to get the proper permit, you know.
All right. Well, I'm ready to pour it because at halftime they're up. What was it? They're up. They were like up 12. I have it pulled up here. One sec. Yeah,
I think it was
69
around.
69 to 56 at halftime. Jaylen Brown just went off. 22 points. I called him a star, Cade, and it kind of looked like he was going to drop a 40 piece. I was ready to text you that, but he kind of cooled off in a little. That's because Jason Tatum showed up. Game 1, he has a terrible game and they win. Game 2, he has a good game and they lose. So game 3 was a huge game for Tatum. He really needed to show his value, and he only had 11 points at halftime, but in the second half, he had 15 points, and he kind of just took it over. He threw 9 assists in there as well, so he was facilitating. He was ISO attacking. It felt like every time Curry was on him this game, he was attacking the hoop. Whereas games 1 and 2, for some reason, he was kind of relying on his mid-range jump shots. I remember a couple plays where it's like he would just jab step and take a jump shot. It's like you can attack the rim, and he came out super aggressive this game, especially after halftime. And Kate, can we just take a look at the Celtics road so far to the finals? If Tatum ends up taking, the finals MVP this year, and I know I'm looking ahead maybe a little bit too much, and the Celtics win round 1. They go up against the preseason favorite, the Nets. KD, Kyrie sweep them. Round 2, the defending champs. Tatum takes down Giannis. Drew Holiday, we know what he's like on the defensive end. I know Chris Middleton. Then they go up against the 1 seed, Jimmy Butler, Bam. And then the finals, Steph Curry, Clay. Draymond Green is setting, or sorry, I don't know why I said Draymond. Jason Tatum is setting up such a beautiful path to a NBA Finals championship. He could be a top 3 player in this league after the finals. I'm just so excited. He's the third. He has the third most points in playoff history before turning 25, behind Kobe and LeBron. So he's been here, man. Game 4. I know the war. Everyone's gonna be taking the Warriors, Kate, but I think I'm gonna go Celtics. I think they're gonna go up 3-1. I know I'm going through a lot here. I'm just super excited to talk about Tatum, but I really think that the Celtics, they found something, and they're gonna take game 4. Steph Curry, we saw that he got injured late in that fourth quarter. And what's new about this game 3 to game 4 situation is there's only 1 day rest. So something to really monitor. I remember, especially after he got injured, he comes back on, and I forgot who attacked him on defense, but he was playing defense and he kind of landed awkwardly before a timeout. You could see him wincing. So I haven't really checked the injury report or the post game press conference yet, but I'm interested to see if Curry's going to be 100%.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's a good post game press conference to check out because Draymond had some funny words for his
Really?
performance in game 3. Oh yeah, yeah. I'll just let you check it out. I obviously can't repeat what he said, but
Oh
it was a
gosh.
quick,
Okay.
easy statement, but it was pretty
Hey,
funny. But
I
what were you
said a
gonna say?
lot there. I said a lot there.
Yeah, no, I agree. But jumping back to Tatum real quick and the Boston Celtics. First off, I think you're right. I think at this point, he is in a position where he can cement himself as one of the best players in the league and as a superstar in this league. Like I said, you've seen it kind of brewing over the past few years. Now he's finally in a big stage in the NBA Finals, a point where I think a lot of people were saying that he possibly needed help to get to, and you saw a lot of that help tonight. But even then, he's still obviously the team leader. He's going to be a guy that the city of Boston can rely on pretty heavily over the next few years. And I think realistically, again, like I said, give it some time. I think it's a little bit early to say it now, but by the end of the series, if the Boston Celtics do win the series, I think you kind of have to start having that conversation is if he is a superstar. Not sure about where he's sitting at rankings wise, as one of the top players in the league, but I think you definitely have to consider him one of the superstars. Now, talking about tonight's game, especially about the Celtics and about the help that Jason Tatum had, I mean, this was a complete change from the way they played in game two because you had three starters in game two only putting up 2 points for how many minutes they played. It was a terrible stat. Now,
It
like I
was
said,
like
the
it
complete
was like
opposite.
70 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, 70 total minutes. It was a long time, just totally combined. Only 6 points combined for those three stars. Our starters, not a good look. Like I said, now you go into game three, and it just the script is flipped at this point. The Celtics have that help that Jason Tatum needs. You have three starters in double figures, or no, you have four starters in double figures, three getting over 20 points. That's going to help you a lot. I mean, at that point, when you're putting up stats like that, you don't even need much help off the bench, which was seen today because the Celtics only got 20 points off the bench. Still a decent amount of help. But I feel like, again, like I said, a lot of that bench help was going to help a team get to the championship and win a championship. But in a situation like today, where the Celtics starting lineup was just playing so well, that bench help wasn't necessarily needed. And realistically, you got to think it also helps too, because now you have a more rested, well developed bench going into a shortened span between game three and game four, a little bit more rested, a little bit more prepared, and ready to, I mean, give the Warriors some health going into game four. Don't want to give my prediction yet, but I think that's definitely going to be a big help on Friday.
Okay, yeah, I know. My bad. I jumped the gun. I got a little too excited, but yeah, keeping up with those starters that you were listing off the points that they scored. But Cade, my biggest thing tonight was um they just played bigger. It felt like for the first time all series, it was like I remember in game one, they were just chucking up threes. In game two, they just didn't even show up. I don't know what happened game two, but game three tonight. They played way more physical than the Warriors. I'll pull up the rebounding numbers right now, but it was yeah, the Celtics 47 rebounds to 31 rebounds, offensive rebounds 15 to 16. If I just go through the starters, Jason Tatum 6 rebounds, Horford 8, Robert Williams for the first time the most minutes he's played all series, and this was the healthiest Robert Williams we've seen all series, coming off a game 2 where he only played 14 minutes. Um uh Kate, I can't say the Celtics coach's name. Help me out.
Ime Udoka.
Ime Udoka,
Hey,
thank
hey!
you.
By the end of by the time the finals is over, I'm gonna make sure you're saying his name right.
And I won't even have to ask. Ime
Exactly, I
Udoka.
got you.
He committed to Robert Williams. I got scared in that third quarter. The Warriors just went on a flurry of threes, and it was mostly because of that Al Horford, Robert Williams. That they're kind of slow to get up on those 3 pointers. They were kind of playing like drop coverage almost. Once Al Horford, drew that flagrant foul on Curry, and I thought they weren't going to commit, but they committed to Rob Williams. He looked healthy. He had 8, 10, and then 4 blocks, a huge block on Curry in that early fourth quarter when the Warriors, it looked like they were going to make it close. I think they cut it within 4 in the fourth. And Curry, couple turnovers. That's another thing. Curry did not look good in the fourth quarter after that amazing third. But I'll stay with the Celtics. Smart, he grabbed 7 rebounds. Jaylen Brown 9 rebounds, and then Grant Williams, he had some huge boards in the fourth quarter. Celtics just dominated the glass. It's something that we've kind of been waiting for, really, especially with the size that they have.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the biggest things, one of the biggest storylines out of this game too, is just the rebounding. I think at one point, I can't remember exactly where it was, but it was, I think the Celtics were one offensive rebound down from the Warriors' total rebound. So that just played a big role, I think, with Robert Williams as of now, just because he's just injured at this point with his knee injuries and whatnot. We're at the point where I think when you see him in the lane fighting through contact, that's where you're going to see him making the most mistakes. But it really didn't seem like that was the case today. I felt like he was getting a lot of good looks down low. It looks like a lot of the guard play from the Celtics was finding him in the right position at the right time. That helped a lot. Al Horford was doing fantastic down low as well. I mean, he was
Right.
spreading the paint out pretty well. So I think just overall, I haven't said it yet, but I think this game three, and I don't want to say it too soon just because I want to see how the Celtics play in game four. But it really does look like the Celtics team is playing a much more cohesive style of basketball, a more team oriented style of basketball. And it goes without saying, but when you're playing a style of basketball like that, nobody could really stop you.
It's weird because the Celtics, they're the team without, a bona fide point guard, a true point guard. Marcus Smart, don't get me wrong, he's a point guard, defensive player of the year. He's gonna guard the point guard, but is he really a facilitator? Um, we saw a lot of Jalen or was it I want to say Tatum probably ran most of the point this game. And both teams really don't have a great facilitator. Steph Curry, he'll get you 7 assists a game, but he's never been in the 10 assist game. But yeah, the Celtics in game 2, the Warriors relied heavily on that pick and roll. It was the Celtics at this time, they were spreading the ball out, finding the open man. Um, what I love about this finals matchup is both of these teams play two completely different styles of basketball. Whereas the Warriors, they're going to move the ball around. They know that they know how to play some beautiful basketball. Whereas the Celtics, for the majority of the year, it's kind of been Jason Tatum, you go ISO. All right, Jaylen Brown, you go ISO, and then we'll kick it out once in a while to Grant Williams in the corner, Derek White. So it's just been a great finals, really, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you mentioned that I think sticks around a lot is the fact that the Boston Celtics don't have that true point guard that a lot of other teams really like and expect to see. And again, I think it does come down to basketball IQ. He just doesn't necessarily have that IQ that a lot of people want out of a good point guard. And realistically, the
Marcus
only
Smart.
person on that team that has that style of IQ is Jason Tatum. But again, you don't see him as a true point guard. But the one thing that does help this team a lot, despite the fact that they don't have that style of IQ play and whatnot that other teams have, is the fact that they're just a gritty team. Where I feel like this is a team where if you take them deep into a series, you're just going to be able to, or yeah, if you take the Celtics deep into a series, the Celtics are just going to be grittier than you and kind of force you out of that game, just being physical and playing a harder style of basketball, you know?
I mean, we saw it tonight, dominating the glass. This is the physical Boston defense, number one in the league all year. That we kind of been waiting for this series so far. Games 1 and 2. I was saying it last post game where I've seen one good quarter and a half out of those first 2 games of good Boston basketball. We saw it for maybe 3 quarters. That third quarter, little questionable. But shout out to the Warriors, Steve Kerr. That's what he's gonna do. Veteran head coach. You saw it. A vet head coach versus a rookie. They're gonna make the veteran head coach, veteran team is gonna make adjustments at halftime, and we saw it in game 2. We saw it in game after I think the score was 52-50 in game 2, and the Warriors ran away with it. And we saw it again tonight. I got scared. The Warriors actually went up 1 at one point. I remember it was like I have it written down somewhere. It was like
Yeah, it was like
80
83, 82.
83-82 exactly. And Tatum kind of took the game over. I'm sorry. It was him attacking ISO ball. Like I mentioned it already, 15 points in that second half. Shout out to the Celtics. They got it done.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's a big statement win here for the Celtics. Obviously, of course, when you're able to go to Golden State, win one on the road, they split the series there, and then come back and win game 3 at your home arena. That's a lot. That's a big help in itself right there, because now you're going into game 4 with home court advantage. You have the possibility of going up big in the series, and you have that momentum knowing that you've already won one in Golden State. You can do it again. It's going to be fantastic rest of the series. But with that being said, you want to go into a little game 4 preview?
Let's do it.
All right. I was going to say game 4 Friday night back in Boston. And let's just put it this way. Like I said, the way that Boston played tonight, I think that's going to play a huge role in the way the outcome of the game is on Friday, you know? Like I said, they played such a cohesive style of basketball and such a true style of basketball to what they've been used to this entire season. I think that's going to play a massive role in game 4. And I personally think that if the Warriors don't make the adjustments that are necessary to be as physical as the Boston Celtics, or at least don't make the adjustments to kind of avoid that physicality, and who knows, even if Steph might be injured and not be able to play at 100%, I think this is a possibility where Boston has a very good chance of winning, despite the fact that the Warriors are in a position where it's a must win for them, in my opinion.
I'll start with this. I know I already threw out my prediction. Celtics should take game 4, but this is a huge game for the Celtics because this is like the closeout game. If they win this game, they pretty much have the series in a wrap. And this is really Tatum's time to shine. His time to take over a series and plant himself as the best player on the best team in the league, the Celtics, if they want to win it all. And I already kind of went into it. Steph Curry, he's gonna have to be 100%, and he's gonna have to show up. He had a bad fourth quarter. He started the quarter off with a miss. All right, whatever. They're only down 7, and then he goes turnover, turnover, and just gets swatted by Robert Williams. And then Marcus Smart goes on the other end, Kate, and then he banked in a 3. If you remember that, they
Mhm.
go up 9. It's like, when if you're playing pickup and some dude banks in a 3, you're like, yo, come on, that's just not fair. Like, especially in the NBA, you rarely see that. It's
Oh,
like,
of course.
right? It's like it's just deflating. And Curry, turnover, especially after a hot third quarter. We've seen this before. We talked about it before the series started, Cade. Both these teams struggled to close out games, and the Celtics were trying to sell that game at all. Almost, it felt like we just said that it was 83-82 at one point. So Curry, I don't want to say this, but to save his legacy, almost he's gonna need a huge game 3. He doesn't have that finals MVP. We talked about how Curry kind of needs his finals MVP to silence everyone. He didn't win, doesn't have a finals MVP. He won one ring without KD. He choked a 3-1 lead. It's like Curry's gonna need a huge game 3, and unfortunately for him, he suffered an Al Horford sitting on his hamstring injury, and it looked pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'll stop you right there real quick. I think Curry's legacy is cemented right now. I think despite the finals MVP is a way to kind of shut people up. But I think as of now, you're still talking about Curry being one of the best players in NBA history. But of course, as you mentioned, this game 4 is going to be massive for him. On the bright side, a guy like Curry, he's still going to be able to kind of move the ball around. He's not going to be really expected to drive with his playing style. So will this injury really affect him? I think realistically, yes. But at the end of the day, I don't think as long as he has the support around him, I think he's going to be a good facilitator on that team in order to get open shots and actually make baskets. Now, of course, that all relies on if the rest of his team can actually form around him and give him reliable shot making ability. And that's kind of where I see those issues as of now. I think Draymond needs to really step it up here in game 4 and actually play a little bit not even more physical. I mean, he's been playing physical this entire series, but I think he needs to take a step back and recognize that, okay, like I've been doing as much as I can to get in their heads. That's amazing. Now it's my time to actually focus on trying to get the ball in the rim. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I
he needs to
totally
get those points up.
100%, Kata. 4 field goals a game. So far this series, I believe. It's like, it's Draymond Green. If you remember, I want to say that 2016 finals where they choked it up in Game 7. It was really only Draymond that stepped up. I remember. I think he had like 34 points that game. We've seen it before, and it's like he's disappeared on the offensive side. The Warriors, they're gonna need him in Game 4. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, it's I think it's a given at this point. You start seeing Clay kind of pick it back up, and I think he'll be good in game 4. But as I mentioned, I think Draymond needs to change his mentality to a point where, again, I recognize the Celtics team had no finals experience going into this series, but realistically, I think they're at the point where Draymond talking a little bit trash to them isn't going to really rattle them anymore. They're going to go step up and actually make the best of it. I do have a quick question for you with the way that this Warriors team is made, just with all the veterans on all the experience on there, for a guy like Steve Kerr, is it just Steve Kerr's job to make the adjustments for the team? Or do you think that this is going to be something where each player is going to have to take a look back at their own playing nature over the past 3 games and actually make those improvements themselves?
I feel like we can go back to I think it's going to be on the players, honestly. Especially if Klay Thompson throws up another stinker, we can look back on this series and say Klay didn't show up for 3 games when they were down, to put them in a 3-1 deficit. Steph Curry, bad fourth quarter. Kevin Looney got played off the floor. Draymond really didn't do anything besides start fights in game 2. Nothing out of the bench. It was Jordan Poole went quiet in game 1. He had a good half in game 2 so far. He hasn't shown up in game 3. So we're looking, if you're saying if the Warriors lose the series.
Not necessarily if the Warriors lose the series, but just going into game 4. Do
Oh,
you
okay,
think this
just whose
because
fault is it?
not necessarily whose fault, but like where does those improvements need to be made? Because the way I see it is, I think there are ways that Steve Kerr could make improvements to the way that the game is being played. Like I said, for example, tonight you had so many of those bench players getting minutes, but at the same time, only two of them putting up real points. Like that doesn't look good. Obviously, I think at this point, if you're Steve Kerr, you shorten down that bench, recognize that these are going to be the guys that are going to be reliable and that can get those points. And if they have to go out there and put up 20, 25 minutes a game just as reliable backups, I think that's reasonable. So I think there's that part in the sense that Steve Kerr has to be kind of facilitating the ball or the minutes a little bit better. But at the same time, you look at the way that the players have been playing this series. I mean, as you mentioned, Clay hasn't shown up for two of the games so far. He showed up tonight, but it was a loss, so does it really even matter?
Yeah.
Draymond Green, again, trying to get in the heads of so many of these Celtics players. But when you have more turnovers than actual points made or buckets made, that's unacceptable in a finals series like this. So I feel like in this case, there's two things that have to be done. First off, Steve Kerr needs to look at his lineup, figure out who's going to be the guys that you know you're going to be in there, give you the best out of their minutes, and shorten that bench to kind of include those guys off the bench only. And of course, you also have to look at the players themselves. And if whether it's a team leader like Steph talking to the team and realizing like this is where the mentality needs to be, or if it just the team itself, just each individual player looking back at their past three games and kind of just kind of seeing their playing style, the players definitely need to take a look at the way that they've been playing and see what adjustments can be made, because it just doesn't seem as of now that they're trying to go with the style that I feel like has worked for them in the past, but the Boston Celtics aren't a team that they've seen in the past in the NBA Finals.
It's funny because I feel like in game two, the Celtics, Kerr did make the adjustments. He played Gary Payton after not playing for a month, 26 minutes in game two. We see him. He played 11 minutes. He was a minus 13. Maybe not. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he just didn't show up. But I feel like we need to see more Gary Payton, more Otto Porter. Okay, their offense, honestly, in the first half was fine. They put up 56 points. It was just no defense. There was no intensity on the defensive side. We mentioned off the rebounding, that rebounding mismatch numbers, and they're just going to need to show up on defense in game four. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's putting Otto Porter at the five and just stretching out the floor, having Gary Payton at the two, maybe Wiggins at the four, something like that. But they're going to have to show up on figure out some sort of defensive lineup that works.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I'm trying to say though. With just
Yeah.
Steve Kerr is the fact that like again he's just got to figure out what he needs to do with his players on the bench, because it just there is those inconsistencies there. You have Otto Porter that's getting good minutes, Jordan Poole, but it really only seems like those are the only two that you actually see going in there, getting good minutes and actually making an impact.
Yeah.
So I think again, like I said, Kerr has to figure out what's the best options off the bench for him and kind of just roll with that and recognize that this is a team that's gotten him this far already. You just have to kind of trust the members of that team that you know are going to be able to get you big minutes.
Facts.
Yeah, so that's just the way I look at it. Now, of course, obviously, I'm gonna say something real quick. We mentioned it in the first recap of Game One. I think it's something that needs to be said now. Seeing the way he has been playing this series, I'm willing to say that if it continues this way and the Celtics win the NBA Finals, Jaylen Brown will be Finals MVP. And I think
Wow.
that's when he cements himself as a star in the NBA.
Okay, yeah. If he's a Finals MVP, you gotta call him a star. Okay,
Oh,
but
100%.
you're putting him above Tatum right now.
As of now, yeah. And in my opinion, I think this is the way it looks. Tatum's had a lot of very good games, but at the end of the day, I think you just look at the way that Jaylen Brown has been impacting the game as much as he has been in those big time wins. It just, I think that speaks enough for itself. Kind of almost seems that the team, as of now, the team is going to be playing good when Jaylen Brown's kind of just producing the way he has been, you know?
No, I actually do. I completely agree with you. I do feel like Tatum is gonna take over in game four. That's my prediction, and he'll kind of overpass Jaylen Brown. But so far, Jaylen Brown has been the Finals MVP for the Celtics. Game 3, he led the team in points. They won. Game 2, he had a bad game. They lost. Tatum had a good game, and they lost. Game 1, Jaylen Brown took over in that second half, and they won. So I don't disagree with you. I feel like it's got to be Brown.
Yeah, and that's like really what it comes down to. You look at Game 3. Jalen Brown is the leading scorer for the Celtics in this game in a win over the Warriors. That's a big enough statement in itself. I know that Tatum had a big game in himself. The entire team had a big game, or those at least the three starters and Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, and Jalen Brown all had put together a really good game. But again, like I said, Jalen Brown was that leading scorer. Game 2. Jalen Brown didn't have the best game, but even then, he was still the team's second leading scorer, right behind Jason Tatum, or not right behind Jason Tatum, but put up 17 points in that game, in a game that they ended up losing. But still, realistically, you look at that, and it's nobody really had a good game that in Game 2, and of course, Game one wouldn't have been a win if it wasn't for the way that Jalen Brown played in that fourth quarter right there. So, again, like I said, I think as of now, as we both agreed upon, Jalen Brown is the MVP, and if he continues to play this way, I think he's winning Finals MVP easily. Now, will I say Jason Tatum is going to kind of pull away there? I think so. I think you've gone through the first three games. It's these next upcoming games, these really just important, meaningful games, as I mentioned earlier, a must win for the Warriors, where you're really going to start seeing these stars truly develop into what they've like. This is really the point of the series where stars are born. So I agree. I think Jason Tatum's going to kind of run away with this. I think he's going to end up winning Finals MVP. But at the end of the day, if Jalen Brown continues playing this way, which is very possible, he hasn't slowed down yet. There's a very good chance that he'll be right in that conversation as well.
Okay, what's your Game 4 prediction?
I alluded to it a little earlier. Must win for the Warriors without a doubt. You cannot let the series go back to San Francisco 3-1. That is just way too much momentum going in favor of Boston, because realistically, Boston only needs to win two more, and they've got two more in Boston. So that speaks enough. This is a must win for the Warriors. They need to take one on the road to secure home court advantage again. With that being said, Boston's going to run away with Game 4, and I got Boston. I'll say it's going to be pretty
Wow.
close. It's going to be close. I think Boston's going to take Game 4. I'd say with 7. Game 4 and 7 for Boston.
Wow. Okay, I didn't think you were gonna go there, Kate. Well, this whole series, we've just been agreeing, Kate. I don't know how I feel about that, but give me Boston by 1. I think it's gonna
Okay,
be
real close.
it's gonna be a classic. Honestly, the Warriors, they know this is a must win. It's gonna be close. TD Garden's gonna be electric, though. I can't wait for Game 4.
Yeah, and I think just it comes down to the way they play tonight. I think
Yeah.
just playing with that team chemistry, knowing they have one more game at home to really go up in the series, I think that plays a big factor in it. Now, I will say though, I think this little 2-1 lead with another game in Boston is a little dangerous for the Celtics, because at this point, I think the Warriors
Yep.
again, they have that experience to know what it feels like to be up against that brick wall and have their backs up against a wall. So they know that feeling. They don't want to get there. It's obviously a position where it could be a little bit risky for the Celtics, but like I said, I think that playing style kind of comes through again. They win. I think I will admit this though. I think after Game 4, the series gets really interesting, because again, once you have your backs up against the wall like the Warriors do, that's just support for them, and that's going to be some drive for them to kind of get themselves back in the series. But again, that's further down. Game 4, I got Boston in 7.
Yep. I'm sticking with my pick too. Game Boston and 7.
All right. We thank you guys for joining again tonight. If you haven't yet, make sure to follow us on all socials at 94 Feet Show on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We'll be posting a lot of stuff there. Of course, so it's a little bit of a shortened gap between Game 3 and Game 4. So we'll be back Friday night. We haven't decided on a time there, but we'll make sure to be back then. And of course, enjoy your watching. Have a fantastic Wednesday evening.